Music is what is needed in our lives, otherwise things would feel different. There would be a feeling that something would be missing, something that should be accompanying us. And that is why music in movies is so important. Whether it's an original film score or an existing song, it's been agreed that music in any medium adds to the product. Otherwise, it would just feel empty. The things we see on screen might be fine, but the lack of music for an entire duration of a movie may seem off, and with these scores, they are noted from people to the point where there are awards for such, and that is where the original soundtracks come in. Most, if not all, movies have a soundtrack released. Some are musical film soundtracks which are focused on the songs from the movies, film scores which are instrumental musical cues and background music, either of the other, plus pop songs, or soundtracks that feature songs that were played at some point in the movie. At one point, these albums sold as much as regular albums. There are popular ones like The Bodyguard, Saturday Night Fever, Flashdance, and Purple Rain. All these are well-known, best-selling soundtracks. And while I grew up listening to the Bodyguard soundtrack, there is one soundtrack album that a lot of 90s kids, if not everyone in the 90s, knows. In November 15th, 1996, a movie came out that was somewhat different from most movies that came out. A live-action animated hybrid that was known as Space Jam, which had Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes play a basketball game against a big batch of aliens called the Monstars. The movie received mixed reviews, of course, with Michael Jordan's acting and the voices of the Looney Tunes getting a lot of the criticism. That didn't stop the movie from grossing over $200 million, because it's a movie with Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes. Who isn't going to see this? But one of the bigger things to come out of the movie was the music, specifically the Space Jam soundtrack, which came out 3 days before the movie. It was certified double platinum at the beginning of the year, and eventually going 6 times platinum. So why did this become one of the best-selling soundtracks and still is talked about even today, even more positively than the movie? Well, the movie itself has done a good enough job at displaying some of the songs that get people hyped up for the movie, but the main reason? This album has something for everyone. This album ranges from hip-hop, R&B, pop, dance, rock, soul, WTFness, and even a little bit of gospel. This album has songs that can be played at clubs and played at sports events. This album can be used to get hyped up. It can be used for exercising, and even during moments when inspiration is needed. This album still is talked about because it's mostly timeless. The movie itself is a product of the 90s, and you can tell, but it's looked on with nostalgia. The soundtrack album is what is looked on as way memorable because of its range of variety, and even if you're not into a certain type of music or a certain style, you'll still like a couple of more songs. This CD is for a variety of genres, as Green Day is for anyone who wants to get into pop, punk, or rock in general. This is accessible enough for anyone to get started on any artist or artists. Most of us who listen to this album will be surprised of who is on here and how relevant it is today, if not just in the 90s. Another reason why the soundtrack stands out is because listening to the album as a whole, one realizes that there is a whole bunch of optimistic songs here. This album came out during a transcending moment of music. Grunge officially died in 1995. Hip-hop was in a darker period in music. This came out after the death of Tupac and before the death of the Notorious B.I.G. This was, in hindsight, a bunch of music that was needed. After this dark period of music, the music started getting more lighter and optimistic. Fly Like an Eagle is a Seal cover of a Steve Miller Band song that talks about helping people and feeling good doing it. Coolio's The Winner is about trying hard and you can be what you want to be. I Found My Smile Again is about finding someone you love and thanking them for helping you smile again. For You I Will is a song pledging love and devotion and overcoming any difficulties in your life. All of these songs are great, but they can't compare to, arguably, the most popular song on the album, I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly. This song has basically a similar meaning to The Winner, but the song is much more grand. It starts off quiet and low-key, before it builds up more and becomes more grandiose, complete with a loud, heavenly choir, and deafening in the best way, and it leaves you breathless. Sure, it's sung by a notorious person, but there is a reason as to why this song is on 2004's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time list. This song still gives chills when it's played at the beginning of the movie when Michael Jordan as a young kid is playing basketball. Not so much when Michael Jordan lands in the middle of the baseball field before a baseball game in a cartoon alien spaceship. That would make the news. And on top of these positive songs, there are also songs that just want to make you get up and dance. Space Jam, the song, is just about having a good time. Upside Down, Giving You All That You've Got, and That's the Way I Like It are songs that you can play if you want to be pumped up because they're so full of high energy. And there's also Hit 'Em High, the Monstars anthem. This song reminds me of a family-friendly version of the remix of I Shot Ya, which makes sense. This album just kills, and there is very little about this album apart from the song featuring Chris Rock and Barry White called Basketball Jones, which was originally a song by Cheech and Chong. And that is not the most WTF thing on this album, since it's pretty tame compared to the last song on the album, Buggin'. It's a hip-hop song that is performed by the Looney Tunes. And this is not the weirdest part. This hip-hop song was written by Jay-Z. It's a joke song for kids, yes, but the rest of the album has no sense of parental advisory because all the songs were clean. Buggin' is just really 90s, like cheesy 90s. But it is the last track of the album, so you can stop the CD at That's the Way I Like It. If Saturday Night Fever had a soundtrack album for the 70s, Purple Rain soundtrack was the 80s, and the 8 Mile soundtrack was the 2000s, then Space Jam is 90s. This album is a perfect representation of the 90s. It's not afraid to go all out party mode, but at the same time, it's not afraid to show you its softer side. There is so much personality in this hour-long album, and it's a beautiful moment where mostly everything is on point. And speaking of personality off an album,